here. Sorry about that. Getting the camera set. Sorry guys, I'm having a problem with my camera here. Just hold on one moment. It seems to be okay. It's looking good on your screen. No? Looks a little crooked. Let's do it this way today. Hold on. I'm playing with orientation, guys, here. Just bear with me. For some reason, it's saying my orientation is locked. We'll do it from there. I can make that adjustment. There we go. That works. All right, we'll do it this way. I'll be like Bill O'Reilly. I'll say, damn it, we'll just do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. And let me adjust over here. All right. That's groovy. Let me unplug this. How is everybody doing? Good to see everybody this evening. I think we got our camera orientated here. I don't know what's going on. There's always something with this YouTube studio when you use it. You just kind of got to go with it. You really can't fight it, but this is looking good. And I can see the live stream, everybody there. Welcome, welcome. If you guys are just joining in now on the live stream, I want to let you know I thank you so much for your time. If you are watching this in the rerun, I want to also thank you so much for taking the time to do so. Time is a precious commodity, and if you're spending a little bit of yours with me, I really do appreciate it. All right, yeah, I'm looking here on the live stream feed. It's looking good. Yeah, all right. I think we're good. Well, guys, a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. I am going to stretch the topic up a little bit more than usual in terms of length tonight. So we'll probably go over about an hour and a half or so tonight. We'll give that a try and see how that works. How's everybody's week this week? I hope your week was fine. Mine has been interesting, to say the least. A lot of topics to talk about tonight as a result of my actions this week. But it was a good one. It was busy, and busy is always good. Studying a lot, learning a lot, trying to get things ready for this live stream. I really am interested these days in YouTube a little bit. We'll start off there tonight. For a YouTube creator, MJ in there with my LP practicing Sunshine of My Love and Drop D. Sunshine in My Love. Sunshine of My Love. Sunshine of My Love and Drop D. Sunshine. Clapton, Cream song. Yeah, I can hear that. Good on you, man. That sounds good. I'm reading the live stream here a little bit here. There, yeah, all right. Seems like everybody's here. Yeah, so, I study YouTube a lot. Because as a YouTube creator, really it is something that I have to do every day of every week in order to bring content to this channel. And also I have to, here, let me scoot up a bit. There we go. Now I think that I'm in good frame here. I'm still working with this camera angle, guys. This is a weird one today because it won't let me rotate my camera the other way. The normal kind of rotation there. Yeah, Cream. Yeah, I know the song. One of my favorites. Actually by Cream, to be honest. I think everybody likes that tune. But as a YouTube creator, you really have to kind of focus on what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're trying to do. and in terms of what direction you're going with your channel, what kind of content you're doing, yada yada, all those kind of things. And you kind of take a view, you look at other channels, some that are starting out and some that have been around for a while, most established channels, and you say, okay, you know, I'm kind of one of those, let's see what they're doing right, because they're obviously growing their channel, they're bringing a lot of people. I never heard an ad on your live streams that I could remember yesterday watching 3 court days. I had a dozen. That's right, 12. Wow. Well, I don't monetize when I'm doing the live stream. I monetize it after. When you go in, you can switch a monetize button. Sometimes they'll do it for you, or sometimes you'll do it and it won't be. So you have to go in and check. That's why I said, you know, YouTube is a very, you know, hands-on kind of thing. You've got to really kind of watch that. So that could be what's going on over there in that situation too. But you know, with YouTube being what it is and looking what other people are doing and saying, hey, that guy's doing something right, or that girl's doing something right, that woman's doing something right, let me kind of soak in what they're doing and see if I can adapt some of that to help me. Mike, I landed an Adam Levine 22 first act guitar for $14. Wow. The pawn shop wanted 75. I have 2 humbuckers and 3-way toggle switch. It sounds good too. I have a 250K pot. Thinking going with 500K. Well, just hear out that 250Ks for it. Let it sit for you with a month and or so, and then and see if that makes a difference. That's great. How many views make it a viral video? When it starts getting above 10,000. The video that I did with Fern, where I went and talked to him, and we were talking about Harley Benton's. That one went viral for me, and it's got 153,000 views. So yeah. So, you know, but you want to hit it like that. You're not going to hit those kind of ballpark things all the time, and that's the subject of where I'm going to tonight. Pedal reviews are dying. Pedal reviews are dying out there on YouTube, and in general, I would say that that guitar and most music gear-related reviews are kind of plunging. You can go in and see the statistics of you know what YouTube groupings are doing well and which ones aren't, and what categories are doing well and which aren't. And there, you know, and then of course you can go around yourself, and as I've done, look at some of my favorite YouTubers. I won't mention their names, but there's guys out there who have 50, 60,000 subscribers. And whenever they review a pedal, and I'll check this a month later to see, because you know things taper off. After a month, it tapers off unless, as I say, it goes viral and then just climbs and climbs and climbs and keeps going. And it takes a life of its own. I've had that happen twice with this channel, fortunately. But in the case of pedal reviews, and some of the guys I've been checking out, they'll do a review of a pedal, and that thing will get less than 1,000 views. You know, on guys who have, you know, 3, 4, 5,000, 50,000, 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 subscribers. And that's not good, because that's really showing just and then they'll do something on you know, top 5, something else, and then that video will do what that level of subscriber base should bring in. So I've seen this with a few of guys, you know, and I'm not trying to get paid. Monetize that dog, that's funny. But it really is starting to show, and I start to wonder. Now guys, I don't have an answer for this one. I'm gonna start out with this topic tonight, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I really, this is just waiting for everybody to get into the chat as an opening kind of subject. But I have no real idea why that is. I really don't. I'm starting to think that, I guess my theory is that with the saturations of things out on the market, okay, let's just stick with pedals. Okay, Michael, stick with the pedals. With pedals, and I've talked about that price. You can get your pedals like this beautiful Tone City for about $30, and you can go all the way up to the skies. I haven't seen any unless there's something like Klon or original Tube Screamer or something like that where they're vintage and they're just costly by that nature. But generally $1,000 and down, and I'm of the opinion, and a lot of people are of the opinion that when you start getting above $100, maybe $150 for a pedal, and I'm kind of programmed that way, I guess, because and spoiled too, because again, growing up in the '80s and '90s, really getting into the music scene during that time, Boss pedals were plentiful, and you could get them for $20. You literally could find them laying around anywhere. You would be at the cinema, and you'd sit down in your seat. You'd say, "What the hell did I just sit on?" And it'd be a Boss pedal, because they were plentiful and they were everywhere, and so seeing this transition where now pedals have got. I went to that Vinendal trade show, the guitar trade show 2 weeks ago, and I went up to all the pedal booths. Those guys, I brought a pedal with me. I actually brought a real decent pedal that I wanted to trade with them. See if I could do a trade or do something with trade in cash. Nobody wanted to trade. Those guys weren't. And they weren't willing to or take too many discounts either, because they were feeling the heat. It's just it's really gotten to the bone, I think, in the pedal market. And I saw examples of those guys. Usually, you get in the last few years I've been going, you could go up there and you could strike a deal. I've done that with one or two pedals up here that I have. But not this year. Not this one. No, no, nobody. People were just not willing to do it. Agreed about 150 max on a pedal. Yeah, that's really it, and that's my thinking too. Like I said, I would really, really love to try out one of those UA Audio pedals. However, at $400, $350, it's kind of iffy. I'm thinking I'm in love with so-called old cheap guitar, want to clean them up and do something great. We'll talk about that. We're going to get to that subject. We're just opening with this one with the pedals, just kind of get people in here into the live chat and warm up the vocal cords here a little bit, and stimulate you guys into where we're going tonight. Because even in the used market, it is really, really, truly, in the used market, it's dog eat dog. Those guys aren't dealing. And the guy that I usually trade with, he's a lot more reluctant right now to do that with me. And I understand. I understand that completely, actually. So there's that. And it's just my theories again, like I said, is it's just an oversaturation. Also, the prices have gotten to be ridiculous. I think that again, and because of the economy being what it is, I don't think that people are in the mood for it. Too many rehashes of the same designs and pedals. Got to be 200 Tube Screamer variants. Agreed. That's another thing too. 100% agree with that. Most key pedals are killer and about $20. Yeah, again, like I said, I've got a couple of $20 pedals up here. This one right here, they don't produce these anymore, but Harley Benton, we're putting these out for a little while. This Dumble copy. That's a copy of a cheap pedal. Is a copy of a copy of a copy. So, and I've hung on to it. If it's sitting up here, it's in my use file. I mean, it's in use because it has a flavor to it that I like. Yeah. I'll check that out. The Moski Reverb. We'll all check that out if we get a chance. But Yeah, dig that. You really are in that zone of 20 to, and then you start getting, and then you really, unless you're getting used, you're either going to be 20, $30, and then it kind of jumps into the 60 to 90, and then it jumps into the 150, and then it jumps into, it just, it goes up that scale. And I'm not saying that they're bad pedals, and I'm not saying that they're not worth it. Of course, the cost of components have a lot to do with that as well. The cost of everything has gone up. And in the case of Corona, a lot of factories that were getting their parts from a certain supplier, that supplier may have shut down or moved operations, and so therefore they have to get it from another supplier. And that guy, the contract's not going to be as good because everybody wants them. So supply and demand also has a key factor going in that. It's just it's that hot wind hitting that cold air again, like I said, creating that perfect storm where the consumer is not feeling it right now in the wallet, and the cost to produce and keep these things rolling out is really starting to show. It's just starting to show. Yeah, those are great pedals, and and I bet you that's where you're seeing guys are buying because it's worth it. Now, when you buy a pedal like that, it's yours. When you buy a $20 or $30 pedal, there is no resale value on that thing. That's yours. But for $20 or $30, it's kind of worth to take the roll of the dice and see because you might find something surprisingly cool for little money. And again, that's why you say to yourself, well, I don't need that next tier or next tier after that pedal because this one works for me. And it works for my wallet as well. And so, again, but the manufacturers, they have to source their components, and that price is not going down. They got to keep them rolling out or they're out of business. It's a bad place to be in. It's a bad place to be in. But yeah, so reviews on YouTube. So you won't be seeing any pedal reviews on my show. I talk about my board here, and I sometimes pull one of these off to give an example. But that's just in the context of the conversation. Doing a pedal review right now is something that I'm not interested in. And again, I'm like most guys. I'm not in the market for any pedals. I'm not. I am so set. It took years of buying and trading and researching and just kind of digging into it and using your ears for me to get to where I'm at right now. And frankly, I don't want to do it anymore. I'm done. People talk about gas, and uh, you know, I don't know if I taken like the tum pill of gas killers, but my gas is really really starting to drop. I can't believe I pay $14 for a guitar. $14 today is like a penny. No, and we're going to get into this. As a matter of fact, thank you for bringing that up again because now we'll use that to segue into the main topic tonight. Let's talk about part casters. And, so this week, if you caught my regular show, regular content show on Upstairs to the Right Music channel, I showed my 2001 Squier Affinity along with that SE body that I acquired. And I went through the process of swapping the necks from that 2001 Squier over to that SE body. And but first doing a little bit of A/B comparison between the pickups, and they're the same pickups from the same factory. However, that's actually not true either. I found out there is a little bit of difference. Still same factory, but one is actually a little bit better than the other. I like both of your Squier bodies. Yes, thank you. I do too. That Arctic White, they don't produce that anymore in that color, and that's the Arctic White is the one, the Strat color that you want to get. That's going to fade into that, Randy Rhoads creamy, kind of color. So there's that. And I reviewed that. I played. I then took the neck off of the 2001 Affinity, and I put it onto the SE body first to see, Fender says any of our necks will fit any of our bodies, whether it's Squier or Fender, they're interchangeable. I wanted to see if that was true for myself. One of the drags about Les Pauls is that you're not going to be swapping necks unless you get one of those Japanese imports from the early 70s. You're not going to be swapping necks on those things. So, because they had a plate, they were bolt attached as opposed to set in neck as they are now. Because the pickups, the guitars sounded very similar, was just stated. Yeah, it's because the pickups, again, same factory, same within those. The body and the neck are within 1 year of each other in terms of production. So there's that. So it was an equitable kind of demonstration. First to show, yeah, you could put that neck on there, fit in, no problems. And I had to do a little bit of a setup, which is interesting because, as you guys know, I've never owned a Strat before. So I spent a day or so just studying how to set up Strats. I have all the tools. I have everything I need. I literally have everything you need in order to do that correctly. And it was a good opportunity for me to learn something new, which is always fun. So on YouTube, watching YouTube videos and learning how to set up Strats. And so I learned how to set up that Strat, because once you take that neck up and put it on, yeah, it's a little dicey of things. You get a little fret buzz, you get some dead spots maybe. You gotta intonate it, you gotta get it ready so that I could do the demonstration. So I did that. And now I know how to do a setup on a Strat and Les Paul's models as well. My Telecasters, I never did the setup on those. This is just something recently I just decided to acquire the ability to do, especially when I can't run it down to Fern. Hey, could you do this setup for me? Yeah, it won't take any of your time. Not like you have anything else to do. So I have to do it myself. But yeah, they sounded great. They sounded fantastic. And it got me thinking, about, as a matter of fact, it's right here. Let me show you guys. So you have a little visual so we can get started here tonight. So this is that SE body with that 2001 Affinity headstock on it. And all tightened up. And looking quite nice, looking quite good, and just a beauty. And so we're going to talk about this. This is essentially, guys, now a parts caster. This is essentially a parts caster now. Why is it? Wow, with this camera angle, I got a lot more of the guitar, and it's good. Why is this a part caster? Well, it's a part caster because anytime. By definition, guys, let's start off tonight by talking about what a part caster is. Anytime you take a factory body and separate its body and its neck in order to replace the neck or replace the body, you have created a parts caster. We'll start with that as the general definition. Now, of course, what happens, thank you, I appreciate that, guys. It is beauty. We're going to talk about this tonight. Now, of course, if you custom build a guitar from parts, it's by its own very nature a parts caster from the start. If you take a factory-made guitar, you keep the neck on, you keep the body, and you change, whatever on it, that's modding. That's not a parts caster. Parts caster really comes into play when you separate the neck and the body. So I separated the neck off of that 2001 Squier, and I put it on the body of this 2001 neck, 2002 body, and it is now my parts caster guitar. One thing I'll get into tonight is right here on the headstock, you'll see there is a mineral spot there, and a few lighter ones, a mineral spot there. They're all over the neck of this guitar because this is really great quality maple here. And you'll see some of the spots here as well. So there is that in there. If you remember on an Affinity guitar, that's where you would find the label at. The Affinity would be right there. Well, I liked that neck on this body so much, really because of that aging. I mean, that's natural aging. That's 22 years of aging on that. And maple neck is just a beauty on it. And I just like the way they look. Again, this is a spot on. If Squire came out with a 1972 Strat copy, this would be it to a T. Some of the 72s had double string trees like this one does, so not a change there. If you notice, there's not that black, truss rod plastic thing they put in there. It's all wood like you would find on a 72. Color also as well, everything exactly the same. And I kind of dug that. I said, wow, you've created a parts caster 72 Squire Strat. And I am going to take it to, and so I did that work. So I took that affinity label and how about this? Ship that guitar to the States. Yeah, now that's the other cool thing about it. It's one of a kind. I suppose you go out there and find those parts, which you could, which is what I encourage you to do to create your own. And personalize it and make it, and that's the beauty of part casters. At the end of all this, I'm going to get there is the beauty of that. 300 euro later, yeah, that's the thing, man. Shipping is just, it's not really the cost of these guitars, it's the shipping cost. Now, I have learned a trick of how to get around that and make it a lot cheaper to ship to the States. I have to. For my business, but it's still up there. But I took that affinity label, and what I did was I took some acetone on a Q-tip, and I meticulously started working on scrubbing that affinity at the headstock off. And my plan was just to get it down. When you put acetone on something like that and it's got that aging, you're going to cut through a lot of that debris and smoke, and it's going to be light in that area. So you're going to have to plan to stain that area ahead of it, which I did. But once I got underneath that affinity sticker that was there, I saw that there was a natural knot in the wood there. And so I didn't want to damage that knot in the wood because I kind of liked it. It's kind of cool to have stuff like that in the wood. It shows that it's a very good quality piece of wood that you've got there. It's got that kind of figuring. They charge a lot of money now to get a maple neck like this with this kind of figuring. Which is another cool thing about part casters, but we'll get into that. But just getting into this affinity, finishing it up work. Then I took some very fine sandpaper, attached it to, again, to the end of a Q-tip, and I meticulously just started working because there's a little bit, it's stamped in there. I thought it was, well, it's been on there for 23 years, so it's gonna leave a mark, and it's into the wood. So I took that Q-tip with a fine sandpaper after the acetone, and I just worked that area, worked around that knot, so that I didn't disturb or harm that knot in the wood, because there's actually two knots there. It's almost like an eye with a lifted eyebrow kind of thing. And then I took some strong coffee and some amber wood dye and mixed those two. And again, using a Q-tip, went in there and started recoloring that area, because by the time I had sanded and got rid of that affinity down, got rid of that, because it was in there, and glue and all the 20 years of being there, it did not match the color. Coffee or tea would work, yeah. Strong, yeah. Either one of those, but I've been using black coffee and wood stain for years, and it works. Singapore, yeah, that's years now. Whoa. Anyway, and slowly, lemon oil is, those are all great too. And just took that Q-tip with that mixture, and just over the course of 3 days, just work that area. And the reason I used a strong coffee and amber mix, because with this kind of amber, natural amber tint, I find that combination works for me. It always perfectly matches that area. And I saved that knot that had been covered over for 22 years by that by that sticker, and it's there now. And you would not, you could look at that, you would not know. I color matched this whole area around there. You would not know that that was ever there, and that the color around it was artificially matching the rest of that natural aging on it. And I actually give myself a little bit of a clap on the back because it turned out fantastic. And because it's no longer going to be a Squire Affinity, that neck is staying on this body. It's because it's just awesome. It did turn out great. Thank you. Charcoal is handy too. Yeah, actually, I did take a little bit of a earth. No, I'm talking about dirt, and a little bit of cigarette ash mixture, and rub that spot as well. And then wipe that down because it gets that dirt back in there again, and it just makes you have to kind of reverse the process in your head. I've learned first you got to work the grain, find where the grain is, and work that. The other thing is kind of think about, well, what is this that I'm trying to do here? I'm trying to replicate something that's been in smoky, filthy rooms, stains and all that, coffee stains, coffee stains, tea stains, that kind of thing that you would get on a white shirt, and you just work from there. At least that was my thinking, and yeah, it came out pretty great. Like I said, that natural knot in the wood is there, and the one above it is there, and it just looks really good. You wouldn't believe it because if you had seen it before, you'd be like, "Oh, you ruined your headstock," because it was all white there. But no longer, and as the days go on, that will set in and it will get darker. So, a parts caster anyway is what it is. And it's a gorgeous part caster. This is a body that somebody was going to throw away. By the way, one of the things that really bothered me about this body was I knew it was an SE. I knew it was an SE, but I wondered why some SEs had a tortoiseshell pickguard, and very few of them that you would see had the white one. I assumed that the white one was just an earlier version of the tortoiseshell, and in that regard, I was correct. As it turns out, actually, this is an SC. This is not an SC, a Squire SC special. This is actually a Squire SC 100 body. They were released only here in Europe. They were only for Europe, and I do believe South America. Don't quote me on that, but definitely just Europe. And they had a white pickguard. Whereas the later SCs that went out to the States and America in 2003, 2005, that period, 2005, I'm sorry, had the tortoiseshell. It was from 2003 to around 2005 that they were only releasing these here in Europe. That's why most people will argue about the dates of this. They say no, it was 2005 on, and some people say no, it was 2002. Some people say no, it was even slightly earlier than that. So this is the body, and the stamp and everything shows that it's the first run body on this, the SE100 that was just released here in Europe only. So that's where the pickups are a little bit different too. They are not the pickups that you would find in the American SEs. They're actually the ones that were released just for here. And that's how in that A/B test you heard a little bit of the difference. These pickups have a lot more bite to them than the ones in the Affinity. Goes to show, worth a bit of digging and some good pocket change, you get something great. I'm all in on this guitar, and I'm going to exclude the cost of shipping the Affinity from Croatia. Is that where I got it from? Somewhere like that, to get this neck. But I'm all in $140 for this. That's it. I am not going to change anything on this. I'm not going to change the pickups. Not going to change the pots, I've decided, because we'll see. We'll see the pots maybe, but that would be it. I'm not going to put a bone nut because I like the nut. I'm not going to change the tuners on this thing because they're great. I'm not going to change a thing on this. So yeah, I'm all in about 140 for what I know. Again, I went to the Vinendahl show, to the guitar show. 2 weeks ago. So it's still fresh in my mind. And I told you I ran into a lot of Strats. And I played a lot of the made in Mexico ones. They were sub 1,000 euros, sub 900 euros, actually, some 700 euros Strats. And I touched and played all of those. And some of them were nice. I'm not going to say they were all, not in comparison, but this guitar, in terms of the feel and everything, that neck, because they don't, again, this wood quality, you can't get this anymore. They don't do it. I read on online, one guy speculated that for these early affinities and some of the SE packs, they were using reclaimed wood, and that's why it's got this figuring in it that you don't get today. You don't get that kind of figuring in the neck of a guitar on the cheap anymore. It costs. Medium figuring, I guess you could call it. Not heavy, but medium. And so just a lot of things going there. But let's get on with this. So in finding out that was an SC100, I also learned that it is absolutely an Agathis body. So yeah, it's Agathis. And I don't know a lot about Agathis, to be honest with you. So I started digging into that. And that's, in this long-winded way, is when I came up with some of the topics about parts, casters, and bodies, and woods, and things of that nature that I thought was fascinating. Out there on the internets, the consideration, guys, for this Agathis body, let's turn it around, take a look at it back, is that this is nothing but firewood. This is good for nothing but firewood. Agathis is dead in your tone, you'll read. And it's the cheapest of the cheap guitars only use Agathis. And it's just not the way to go in terms of a quality guitar. We're going to talk about that word quality in a minute. But this is all snobbery. And I encourage people to go out and dig around and find bodies and necks and things like that and build their own parts casters in this way if you're going to do a Strata or Tele or Jaguar or any of those that you have a bolt-on neck, jazz basses, even whatever. I don't want you to ever think about the wood like that. I want you to think about Leo Fender using Alder, just to kind of give you a little bit of a check. Why did Leo Fender use Alder on his bodies when he first started making his guitars? I think I've mentioned this to you before. He did it because it was the cheapest one available. It was the cheapest wood, it was plentiful, and he could get a lot of it, and so that's what he used. Now, it's become the standard, and the reason why some companies, like Fender, will upcharge you for it. Still nice to come from a living tree, have a soul. Yeah. And still have that look of a living tree, too. But Leo Fender chose that because it was the cheapest thing available at the time. And when I read these things online about Agathis bodies, it also put me in mind, hey, I've heard this conversation before. See, I'm old enough now to say, hey, I've heard this before. And where have I heard this before? I heard it when they were talking about basswood back in the 80s. You heard about people talking about basswood back in the 80s? Oh, it's too dense. Oh, that sounds familiar. It's only for cheaply made guitars. Oh, I've heard that before. It's the worst wood, kill your tone. I heard that. I just read that about all these things I'm hearing about Agathis. And that was the general perception of basswood. My Telecaster, a lot of Japanese guitars, a lot of Japanese Fenders were made from basswood. My Japanese Telecaster was a basswood body. I've told you this before, and I love that guitar. Monaco Butterscotch, love that guitar. I'm actually regretting selling it. Money is one thing, memories. Well, anyway, we all have our regrets, I'm sure. But the point of this is that it's a repeat of that. So when I was reading up about the agathis body that was used 22 years ago, but by the way, both the maple, the rosewood, and the agathis on body have had 22 years to dry out, meaning it's light. It's a light guitar. I know it looks heavy, but this is a very light Strat comparatively to a lot of those made in Mexico boats that I tried out 2 weeks ago. Another thing in its plus. Also, as I seem to recall, on all of those made in Mexico guitars, except for some of the earlier ones from the 2007s, I saw. The rest of them that I saw more recently had Paul Farah fretboards. They didn't have, they had alder bodies, but they did not have rosewood fretboards. I found that to be very interesting, charging a lot. True about the basswood arguments. I have guitars and basses with many different woods. I also build guitars. I'm the camp that for solid body guitars, wood has a minimal effect on the tone. I have a Yamaha Studio Lord with Agathis, fantastic guitar. Yeah, it's wood snobbery, guys. You start getting in terms like nicer or better. And what are the words nicer or better woods really about anyway? I think it's just more marketing weasel talk, to be frank with you. It's marketing weasel talk. We should get a t-shirt, marketing weasel talk. And we should do a t-shirt like with that. I like that one. Because that's what it is, you know. With agathis or mahogany, to my recollection, there are 20 different varieties of those. I'm sure within those varieties, there's different gradings. So who's to say what basswood back in the day as well? Who's to say what kind of basswood they were using? I'm sure some of them are acoustically just as good as alder or any other things that are now accepted, basswood included. I'm sure there's 20 different, I know there's 20 different varieties of agathis, and maybe the ones that they're using is just as good sonically. I think that it's proven itself out, like basswood did. And how did basswood prove itself out? Well, Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, if you guys remember who those guys are, who those cats are, they started playing guitars with basswood bodies. Van Halen started building his guitars. Guess what? Basswood bodies. And then the snobs started saying, hey, you know what? Maybe this is a viable wood. After all, it hadn't changed sonically. It was still the same friggin' basswood guitar, body guitar. But the mentality changed, so the ear changed. So, you know, the subjective became the objective, you know. Dig that. And it'll be the same thing with agathis in 10 years. Or somebody will come out playing a guitar and they'll find out it was made from agathis, and everybody will say, okay, it's all right. So as was mentioned here by Sunbase, and as I'm alluding to, really is the wood kind of thing is not what you want to get, but it is, a guitar is a sum of its whole. We'll talk about that. You know, and another reason why basswood guitars got a bad rap back in the day is because if somebody would get one of the cheaper guitars, and because it was made out of basswood and it sucked, the general perception out there in the market was that basswood body guitars suck. Yeah, back to the term back to the term market, yeah. It's marketing weasel words, guys. Like marketing weasel words. Nicer and better. Okay, what does that mean to us? And so the basswood guitar sucked was the general consensus. And no, it was the guitars themselves that sucked. There was nothing wrong with basswood that they were constructed of. It was the rest of the construction, the cheap pickups, the cheap bridges, the cheap and badly cut nut, the cheap tuners. Those are the causes why cheap guitars got that kind, why basswood got that rap, is because it was piled on top with a bunch of cheap stuff. If marketing was real, we'd all be playing Esteban guitars. Hey, Veronica, what's happening? Welcome to the party. So glad to have you here this evening. Yeah, what does that mean to us? It's marketing weasel words, guys. And it was the bass wood was fine. It was the cheap crap that they were piling on top of those guitars that made that kind of word of mouth, that grapevine kind of talking, the prevalent sentiment of the time. And until Steve Vai and Satriani and Van Halen came and proved that wrong, because they were professionals and they had a tone and they had bass with bodies, but guess what? They had great pickups. They had great Schaller parts. They had, it was top class. So what is it, starting with the pickups. So what does that say? What's really important there? Any differences in tone wood can be tweaked with EQ after all, guys. To be honest. I'm not crazy about the Les Paul traditional. Is that what it's called? Yeah. Is that what it is? Or Les Paul, the one that has the maple neck. I'm drawing a blank. I do believe it's called traditional. The cheapest of the Les Pauls that you can get, around $1,000 to $1,200 for those. One of the reasons I'm not in love with it is because I am a purist wood-wise, construction-wise. They get tribute. Thank you. The tribute, Les Paul tribute. Thank you. Appreciate that, Carl. In totality, the body of the guitar, the sum of the parts, is important to me. There's certain things that I think on a Strat are more important than others. I think a maple neck and a rosewood fretboard, the body, there's a lot of factors there. So, but one of the things that I would not want is I wouldn't want an Indian Laurel or a Paul Farrow fretboard. And I would want the best quality maple neck that I could get. That's why a lot of cats. I looked into that Warmoth swapping thing next. I looked into Warmoth next this week after it was mentioned last week. And that's why a lot of cats go for that, because it's exactly that. Fun fact, 2018 Tribute had mahogany necks. Yes, I know that. That is a fun fact, and it is true. For 1 year span there, if you can find it in 2018, they do have that package in it, and that's the way to go. But you can tweak out the sonic things that I can hear with that mahogany neck, and in the studio with EQ. So really then where are you at with the wood argument? Even my argument having to have a maple neck, fall apart when you start getting into the recording process. So a parts caster, we're building this case. I am trying to build this case this evening. For the sum of the parts, may really be, the answer to gas, because they're inexpensive. So you can satisfy your gas by buying necks and bodies and trying out. Not every neck will work with every body, unfortunately, because these were made in the same factory a year apart, sonically and everything else. They work well. They jive together. They fox together. But it'll satisfy that gas. It'll satisfy that need by going out and do that. And you're also doing a service out there to the ecology, which is something that I'm heavily preaching, that I strongly believe, because you're not out there in the music store buying something new. You're out there buying something used. You're taking something, somebody, the reason why this didn't have the neck attached is because the necks that come on these SEs, all the SE lines, especially the early ones, are highly coveted because it's 22 frets. This one is 21 frets. So that's the only other difference. And again, the wood quality, and supposedly it's a little bit chunkier. This is for an Affinity. This is a chunky neck for me. I like this. I wouldn't want it any more than this. But apparently, the quality of those necks, the way that they feel on those starter SE packs that were selling for $199 back in the day, are necks that are highly sought after. So guys are buying the SEs, the old ones, and they're taking the necks off and putting it on their Squires, or doing what we're going to get into next, the next subject. But let's stick with this one. Again, any differences in that case with the woods can be tweaked out using EQ. So I've kind of laid out a couple of the economics of it, wood snobbery, differences in tone. I've laid out a case, the ecology of it. I was getting into a little bit. Let me get a little bit more into that. Again, you're not in the shop buying something new. You're out there saving guitars. Somebody was going to take this body and basically, if I hadn't come along and got it, it had been laying somewhere in dust. Same thing with that Affinity, because Affinities have a bad reputation as being not great guitars. But boy, I'll tell you something. That 2001 Affinity I have in there, those pickups, and when I get a neck for it, again, because this neck, I'm sorry, it's given up the ghost on its neck. So now I've got to find a 2001, 2002, maybe 2003 neck. That's within the same range of that to make that work again, but that'll be for another day. I have a neck coming possibly here that may satisfy that. That's been kindly donated to me by Mickey. But you're taking parts and pieces and things, and you're making something, and something that you'll love. You're satisfying your gas because you can do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of these if you really want to, and each one of them would be different. You can put as much money into them as you want to, other than, if you find a sound body that's got the pickups are still good, all the mechanicals are still good, maybe a little bit of wiring work you got to do, maybe pots and caps maybe need a little switching. But, if it's in that range where, it's going to cost you $20 to get up and running again, and you want to keep it like that, like I am with this one, hey, you're good. If you want to heavily mod it and make it into something special, you're doing a lot better than you would out of the custom shop. Like I said, this neck on this wood that they were using back in China, as one guy was speculating, reclaimed wood. Good luck finding this kind of neck these days. You need to try a solid one-piece Powell Ferrero neck without a finish. Neck is one thing. I'm talking about the fretboard. I have a J bass with one, and the feel is so smooth in the neck. If you're talking about the whole neck being Powell Ferragamo, that's one thing. I'm talking about the fretboard. On Les Pauls and Tallys and Strats, if they have a fretboard on them other than the solid wood, then I would prefer rosewood. And again, that's what you're getting here, because if you look at the new Fender Player models, starting around $900, again, you're not getting a maple neck on those. And the quality, you're not getting a rosewood fretboard on those. And the quality of the maple is nowhere near the quality that you're getting on this guitar over here next to me. And you put it together and you put a little work into it, and you realize you got yourself something that's better than that. And personalized, and cool. And you're saving, it's like Toy Story. It's like, what if you found Woody's body here in his head and another place, and you put it together and he's a complete toy again? But you're not rushing down to the shop to buy a new Woody toy. You're refurbishing that. One of my favorite shows that I used to watch when I lived in Japan, I used to get stuff from HGTV, was American Restoration. And I love that show because the guy would bring in old stuff from the 50s and 60s, even the 40s, and he would restore it back to its original condition, and it would just look fantastic. And I really admired the fact he could work with wood and metal and paints and stains and things of that nature in order to do that. It's quite impressive. As I told you, that's a thing. If you're a guy and you can do that kind of work, you got my vote. Luther's guys who work with that, and I'm learning. I'm trying to teach myself how to do that. But he was able to do that, and you're doing that yourself, kind of. I feel as though I did that here. You know, it just so happened that when I took this neck with this 70s headstock and put it on this color body, it just turned out actually to be a 23-year-old copy of a 72 Fender. And I have, and if you wanted to get this color with this headstock, you would have to go up and get the player series, which is $900, like I just said. And I just like this better. It's a 22-year-old guitar, in essence, because of the parts. They're 22-year-old parts, and it has the gravitas and the vibe and the feeling on it, and also the frets on this. The other thing about this neck was these frets are like new. It's literally like it's set in a closet. I can't explain it, that affinity. The frets are fantastic. So that's another win. I don't have to do a fret job on this. And so you're going to spend $900 to get something that, the same body color with the 70s headstock, but I would argue that this is with that pale ass maple necks that they're putting out these days. It looks like your ghost neck, your ghost maple neck. No, you're not gonna get anything. And then or in the classic vibe, they'll put that faux amber tint to it. No, ain't nothing like the real thing, baby. One good thing, this $14 guitar has a nice thick rosewood fretboard. Yeah, you have to go back in time, and if you want those things, if you don't mind, you don't mind. If that's not something, but but it's way cooler to have a rosewood over anything else. And one of the things I can say, I can play whatever you put underneath my fingers poorly, but I can play it. I don't care in that regard, but as a personal preference, we all have personal preference. I'm like, some women like tall guys, some women like short guys, some guys like blondes, some guys like brunettes. It's a personal preference kind of thing. Are you happy with the pickups in that compared to the white Strat you got the neck from? Yeah, I just mentioned that, Andrew. Again, I don't know if you can see this, but these are raised pole pieces. These pickup pole pieces. Say that 3 times fast. These pickup pole pieces are raised and they're staggered, and that's going to cause a change in your tone as well. So both of them ceramic, both of them the same factory. One raised pole pieces, one not. I find that in the number 4 position, the affinity is beautiful. As a matter of fact, I think I've mentioned this before. There's a Justin Bieber song out there that was done by a guy here in Holland. He did the guitar track, and he used a 2001 Squier Affinity in order to create that track. Because the number 4 position on that 2001 Affinity, and you can go look that up and see it. It's not just me spouting this off. A lot of guys, as well as that gentleman on the YouTube video, say that it's a beautiful tone. There's just something about it. So I wouldn't. I'm not changing anything about that. It needs a new neck now, but but in terms of the pickups, I like them both. These on this guitar are meatier. Ceramic pickups, all the same, but they're and probably the same mini pots in there. I bet you I haven't taken the hood off yet, but I'm sure. But they are meatier. I think at the end of my demonstration on my regular channel, I did a little thumb stroke, and you can hear the meatiness in it when I dug into it. They're very responsive pickups, but there's just a beautiful tone in the Affinity. Yeah. Pull. Yeah, it's a tough one. It's a tongue twister. Guys, one of the things that was mentioned to me last week was, in terms of these guitars, was getting a Warmoth neck for it to put on this body. And again, I looked into the Warmoth thing. A lot of guys do that. That's one of the, for Fenders and Squiers, Warmoth is the number 1 neck that everybody goes to if they want to do a replacement. Either way. And what they'll do is they will get some decals like these. So these are laser printed decals. This is a Squire decal. Squire Stratocaster, and there it says original contour body. So what they'll do is they'll get these, um, and they'll put it on those Warmoth necks, and they'll, all the things you have to do to lacquer it and whatnot, and there you go. I had purchased these, and it was my plan because I like this. I knew it once I got it on here. I was in love from day one. I like this so much that I said, okay, I'm going to take that affinity out, and I didn't know how it was going to turn out. I didn't know there was that knot in the wood underneath. I didn't know a lot of things, but what I was going to do is put this uh, contour custom body sticker right there, right there. uh, if uh, if just to see how that looked, if I had to cover up that spot, if I wasn't able to stain it and make it look well. As it turned out, completely unnecessary. And as a matter of fact, it looks way cooler with the bare wood there, with that wood mineral knot in the wood there, the two mineral knots. So no need to put a decal over it at all. But what I did find, and what I'm finding out there, because I am looking for parts and bodies and things like that. I'm not just saying this. These are things that I'm going to do. Put these guitars together and find a home from them. Somebody who swears that they won't turn them into, they won't sell the parts separately, but put them together and sell them cheaply. Or in the cases of some of them, if they can get it cheap enough and it's nice enough and playable, to give it to the children's music foundation that I donate guitars to. So a couple of things I'm doing there. But and by the way, an update on that Harley Benton that is going to them. The switch on it went bad. We did that swap of the pickups on it, and the switch went bad. So Fern's got it. He's ordered a new switch for it. Fine, that's getting donated. I want to make sure it's good enough for the kids to play. And I'm sure, some of these Squire Strat parts casters that I've been that I'm planning on putting together as we speak, some of those will also be donated. So good homes for those. Won't have to worry about them turning into parts casters again, and they'll get a second life. But a lot of guys I was seeing online are ordering these stamps. They're getting these Squire SE bodies. They're taking that. Hey, Patrick, I appreciate that. Yeah, guys, I have 17 people watching and 7 likes. There's a little bit of problem with the math there. Hit the likes, guys. Hit those likes, hit those likes, hit those likes, hit those likes. I appreciate it. It helps me out so much. Oh, 16 people now. Somebody said, I'm not hitting the like. I'm out of here. It's too much. Thank you guys for sticking in there with me tonight. They'll order these, but what they're ordering, instead of Squire, it's saying Fender. There are so many necks on sale here in the local marketplace. Mark Platts, Squire necks. I am positive that the original neck for this SE body ended up with somebody taking that neck, taking the Squire decals off of it, and replacing them with Fender decals. I'm 90%, okay, won't say 100% sure of anything, but I'm 90% sure that's what happened, because the necks on these SEs, it's especially, again, like I said, early 2000s, the wood, the construction, the feel of it beats custom shop stuff. So they have gained a strong notoriety. Again, why it's hard to find these out there in one piece these days, but if you can find an early 2000 SE, either the 100 here in Europe or the special there in the States, buy it. It's a buy. But Mike, do you have any recommendations for inexpensive locking tuners? I do. Again, used. I would look for any of the Fender locking tuners. You can find them on the secondary market. I'm looking for a set myself. Those are some of the best. I use them on my Telecaster. They're great. So if you used, I'm only, I'm not going to recommend anything new to you. On the secondary used market, Fender, they'll find them, and you can find them for 25, $30 for a set, a complete set, all the screws, everything you need. Beat that. Fender locking tuners, cheap, but you got to find them. But they are out there. You probably have a bit wherever you're at. You're probably doing better than I am in that regard. Mike, do you have anywhere? Yeah. So so dig that. But they're doing that. They're creating these fake Fender Strats for a couple of reasons. I'm trying to get into the psychology of it. I can somewhat understand it, I suppose. You know, back in the day, if you had, especially if you're my age, if you had a Squier guitar and you showed up, you were going to get pointed and laughed at the band rehearsal because with the serious cats, because they're not going to consider you to be a serious guitarist with a serious guitar. That was a long time ago. But these guys still have that in their heads. And for whatever reason, they want to fake having a fake Fender because they feel that's cool and that's what they want to have, but they don't want to spend the money. You're saying it sounds good, I guess, is the statement, as good as a Fender in their mind, so therefore it should look like a Fender, I guess is the thinking behind that. And they're thinking to themselves, well, it's mine. I'm going to keep it here at home, and it's not going. I'm never ever going to resell it. So what's the big deal if I print out Fender stickers instead of the Squier that it is? Somebody mentioned that last week to me about the stigma of having a Squier guitar and putting Fender stickers on it. That was mentioned just on this live stream just last week. I love that this is a Squier. I love that these parts are Squier parts because I really have loved Squier guitars since the early 80s, since they first started coming out. I told you one of my first guitar was a Squier. I'm not ashamed of having a Squier guitar because I'm not worried so much. Once I get the next set, get the intonation right, get everything set, get the pickups where I want them, and get the sound that I like out of it, then it's down to me and my fingers. I don't, it doesn't matter what it says on the head, Fender or Squier, it doesn't matter. That's my mentality. But I can rock this. I'll go on stage with this if asked, and I will play this. And I will rock proudly that I've got a 22-year-old Squier guitar that looks cool as hell. I don't have that kind of mentality that I felt ever, or even the thought even crossed my mind to put on. Look at that. And again, that's a rosewood fretboard. It was a boy. Let me not digress on my digressions. It was not on my mind to even think about printing out Fender Stratocaster decals, and I only wanted the one. I only wanted that custom thing just in case. It was my backup plan. I always have a plan B. It was my plan B of taking that Affinity logo just there at the top of the headstock off, and my plans to stain it if that didn't work. But as it turned out, I didn't know, and it's crazy. They were covering up that knot with the Affinity sticker. It's like, it's a beautiful part of the wood. Couldn't you shift it a little bit just with the fate that on this particular headstock there was a knot there, and that was the location? Probably the guy with the Affinity sticker back there, it was like, cool, it's a bullseye, But once I cleaned it off and found that knot underneath and stained it, there was no need for me to even do this. So I'll keep these. I'll keep these around because there may be other things too, but I'm not putting Fender stickers on any Squier. I'm keeping a Squier because I'm not ashamed of having a Squier. Now, a lot of guys will say to themselves, okay, well, it's just for me. I have no plans on of ever letting this or getting out in the wild where somebody thinks they're buying a fake Fender. Yeah, but what happens when you die? We're all going to pass away. What happens 10, 20, 30 years down the line, 40 years down the line, as many years as possible, God willing, for all of us. But when that day comes, you pass on, your wife, your family, they don't know. And they're going to put it out there, and it's going to go to a pawn shop, or it's going to go to a dealer, or it's going to go to somewhere, and they're going to say, oh, it's got it's got the serial number, it's a Fender serial number that you fake printed. It's old, so it's old. It's been it's old enough so it's ambered over and it's starting to look legit. And maybe you did a really good job on the tint and all that as well. The better you do it, the worse you make this actually. And that gets out in the wild, and somebody thinks that, and there's a bunch of squires masquerading as Fenders out there down the road here coming up. So I'm against that, as you guys can tell. I am not a fan of anybody who does that. Now, if you say to yourself, I don't like this particular Squire logo, so I'm going to go for one of these old-fashioned scripts, like spaghetti strip, stuff like that, then that's groovy. That's a lot of work because, just that little affinity spot, man, it took me days to get that stain to match the rest of it. I wouldn't even want to think about it if I took that Squire logo off that and had to do the same thing to that area. It would ruin actually the natural ambrung as well. The little area is fine, so that's another reason why no, I'm not going to be doing that. I like that script. A guy was saying on YouTube the other day, he was talking about these older Squire models, and he said, "Well, man, if you get the ones with the black script, those are no good. Those are shit. Don't buy it." Probably one of the reasons why gear reviews on YouTube is dropping, because you have a bunch of guys making asinine statements like that without, well, I heard the black ones are no good, so just stay away from the black script. Well, most of the really good ones have that stamp on it. Now, if you get it and later on you want to change and personalize it, as long as you keep it as Squire, I don't care. But again, erroneous information. No, the ones you're looking for have that script and that black stamp on it. But it just blows my mind when I hear it. Dude, do not get on YouTube with a guitar review channel and just say things. It's like Doug and Pat. Do you guys know the Doug and Pat channel? These are Canadian guys, older gentlemen in their 70s. They've been doing it since the 70s, late 60s and 70s. They own a 59 and a 1960 each. One has a 60, one has a 59 Les Pauls. These guys have vintage amps. They have a lot of cool stuff. And they were getting into Rhett Shaw the other day because they were digging into him. They were like, how is this guy going to talk about what a true PF tone is if he's not using a true PF, in order to do that kind of, he's using whizzes, and so, and it was a rebuke by older, wiser guys to a younger cat saying, hey, how can you make those statements if you don't have, and Rhett has the ability to go down and find any shops there where he lives at and find a 59 and do that kind of thing. He didn't do it in this case, and he got kind of got a little bit of a slap there, and deserved as well. Deservedly, just like this guy was saying that the black marked Squires are the bad ones. It's like, when I heard that, it's like, what are you talking about? So, disinformation, misprints, probably no different to half the vintage guitars on the market, to be honest. Always being a black light guy buying a used guitar and check for a change. Because, yeah. You take a black light and shine it on this. You'll shine it on this because this pickguard has started to age. It's really got that beautiful aging to it. You can shine it on that, and you will see that is true 22 years worth of aging. You can shine it on this neck, unlike on the classic vibes that are painted to look this color. You can see that this is the true aging color, and the decals as well, as was just pointed out, which is another reason I'm glad I didn't have to put the decal here It was not. It wasn't because I thought about that. It's not something I wanted to do. I didn't want to change it. Small little takeaway like that because it's no longer an affinity. That's acceptable to me. But I kept on the backside. I did keep the original stamp, the neck stamp, the number, all that information is still on the back. So if anybody looks at it, they'll know what it is. At least they'll scratch their head and say, "Well, it's a Squire, but this neck didn't come with this body." But that's after I'm gone. Or maybe they'll just watch this YouTube live stream and they'll say, "Hey, that's Mike's guitar." No, I'm just kidding. But that can but at least it still says Squire. Nobody's going to think it's a Fender. As was just pointed out, I've told you before, I had luthiers in LA tell me in my face, back in the day, dude, we used to take those Strats and we used to pull them apart. We'd take this 60s neck and put it with this 70s body, or we take this 50, this, that, and we swap them around in order to put something together because we had the parts. No different than what we're doing now with these Squires. The same thing was done with those Fenders back in the day. And you don't know how many of these Fenders that are being sold out there as, 60s, 70s Fenders, or even the 50 ones, are completely, totally authentic. A lot of those truly can be parts casters as well. So does that put a negative or a positive, a swing on the term parts caster? A lot of those Fenders out there, I'll say it again for the cheap seats, a lot of those 60s and 70s Fenders that you see advertised for sale out there, a lot of those are parts casters because the necks don't always match the bodies. And in a lot of cases, because the numbers have been filed away or age and time have gotten that, you can't tell. Unless you really know that year, that model, and you really have that kind of information. And that's not going to come from YouTube. That's going to come from personal hands-on experience. But they were doing the same thing, essentially what I've done here. I took a 2001 neck and put it on a 2002 body. Is it still Squire? Yes. Is it still a early 2000 Squire? Yes. But is it a parts caster? Yes. Yes, it is. But I can say the same about some 60s and 70s Strats. There's a reason I stayed away from Fender Strats, older ones back in the day, because I didn't know, one of the multitude of reasons. Glad I got into it now, kind of digging it. It's kind of fun. But so guys, don't do that. The point of all this, the moral to all this is don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. What is your take on ghost builder like Chris Darren Gibson's for Slash or custom builds for Malcolm Young there, wearing Gretsch but still say Gretsch? Well, again, do we call those, keeping in the context of tonight's discussion, were those parts casters? Or were those custom shops? And if they were custom jobs and they weren't done by Fender or Gretsch, by Gibson or Gretsch, did that make them any less authentic? And if they were so unauthentic, then why is it that later on both Gibson and Gretsch did reissues of those very same guitars that were not made by them? See, it's a tangle. So you ask me what I think. I think that there's a lot of there's a lot of ins and outs on that. It's what we call a loaded question. I think that Gibson owes Chris. Certainly, he gave his life for the cause, because he died of cancer he refused to wear a mask when he was spraying nitro, and he died as a result of that. But he gave his life for the cause. Yeah, copies of copies of copies, copies of copies of copies of Miss. Dig that, but we'll let that one go. But they owe him because by building a guitar the way they used to build it, and getting that mentality back and say, hey, this is what the consumer wants, and this is what Slash is putting in front of him, so you guys better retool and get back to that. And I think from Chris and from that guitar came the birth of the idea of the custom shop. Because remember, the custom shop came about in '92, I believe, as I seem to recall. So yeah, Directly because of that. So they owe Chris, or they owe him a favor. Same thing over at Gretsch. So dig that. It's a loaded thing, man. You know, it's copies of copies of copies. That's what it is. Because now you got to reissue. Every issue of that original Slash guitar is a copy of a myth. So dig that. It's a loaded question. Yeah, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy that's going out there and printing these labels like this. Don't be that guy. Don't do it. Because you may say to yourself, okay, this is just for me, I'm going to keep it in the house. But when, you know, later on, and it gets out there into the wind, so to speak, for whatever reason, you're dirtying up the market. And you're showing a disservice to Squire. As was pointed out, there's plenty on the main stage playing Squire guitars. Plenty. So why would you be ashamed to join that group? I'm not. I have a Squire Strat now that I am going to, that didn't need a lot of work. And I'm going to put that little extra, go that extra mile to finish it up. And it'll be a Strat that I know the feel of it, as I've said, that neck alone. Boy, I wish you guys could feel the neck on these early. I wish everybody here, I could pass it around the room here of 16 people so you could all feel the neck on this guitar, how that feels. Because again, this is 23-year-old wood, 22-year-old wood, and God knows how old it was before that. Like I said, one guy says that these early ones were done with reclaimed wood. And just the feel of that, you have to go to the custom shop to get that feel of a quality maple. And so you know, don't be. It's a great guitar. Squires are great, and if you don't like the Squires, if you don't want the custom buy, go out there and get some parts and pieces of Squire and put something together that you do like. You'll be doing the environment a favor. You'll be doing your wallet a favor. And at the end of the day, if you know what you're doing, you're going to have something that you're going to love. It's something that's going to be personal to you. You'll be less likely to turn it over. In 1980, everyone said 70s Fenders were junk. So everyone swapped parts on Strats and they threw the original parts away. Now folks praise 70s Fenders and paid money for them and paid big money for the pickups in 70s as well. Those pickups that they were throwing, it's the same thing with the Les Paul PAFs. They were pulling those out and putting in DiMarzios. There's one guy who was putting those together, and back in the 70s, I forget the name, very famous, I can't think of the name of it right now, Guitars and Things. Guitars and Things were taking the PFs out of the 50s and they were putting it into their replica models that they were ordering from Gibson. So there's replicas out there from Guitars and Things from the 70s, that shop, look it up, that have PFs in them. And they because nobody, and they were putting the DiMarzios as a replacement in those others. So you've got some Les Pauls out there from the 50s that had DiMarzio pickups, and you have some replicas that have PFs in them. That's how crazy things were. It was Wild West, man. It was the 70s and, the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. I was there. I remember it very well. I was a kid. I was but a wee lad, as I said, but I still remember it very well. And it's nothing like today. Nothing like today. Not even comparable. The mentality, things that people do, the amount of chips in saying Gibson and the fake Fender, etc. on the market is insane, but at least most of these are easy to spot if you know it. But it's easy for you to spot, Maddie, because you have experience, and me, and Mickey and Son and a bunch of guys here, and girls here. But for the regular Joe Schmo out there, somebody comes up there and says, "Hey, I got this Les Paul. Give me $1,000 and it's yours." These things are usually going for, they wouldn't know. They wouldn't know. They can be, because you really have to know the minutia of that. And when you're, younger, You really may not know that. So that's why I know, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Where are we? 184. Okay, well, we can wrap this up here. We've come to an hour and a half here almost. Fantastic. Oh yeah, don't be last. Don't be that guy. Don't do the Fender stickers on the Squire body. Be proud of your Squire guitar. Be proud of them. Be proud of them. Be happy of them. Be happy that you got it. Be and say to yourself, hey, this thing is awesome. This thing is awesome and it looks good. I swear, because this neck, there's no nicks or anything. This neck looks new. The body, even for 22 years, looks not a serious ding in it, as you can see, at all anywhere. No dings, zero. This thing looks brand new. It's over 20 years old. It's got a gravitas to it. Why be ashamed of that? Why be ashamed of that? Rock that, man. Rock it. Thank you, Patrick, for showing up, man. Thank you so much for showing up. Rock it. Don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed of your Squires. Don't be ashamed of your Epiphones. If you're starting out, when you get around my age, that's not your thinking, or at least it shouldn't be. Now you're thinking about tone. You're like, hey, maybe this thing gives me a better tone than this thing over here. I'm not thinking about what those things cost. I'll buy this if I think it's got the better tone, but maybe this may be the better option. Something to think about. Guys, I put up a list at the end of my regular content show this week that the dude from Tame Impala plays Squires at huge festivals. It's great to see, yeah. Some guys out there, because they grew up on them and they're not going to switch. That's the guitar that he grew up on. I bet you dimes to dollars. And he's like, hey, man, it got me here where I'm playing stadiums. Why do I have to all of a sudden have to get offended to feel as though I'm something now? You understand what I'm saying? He got there with a Squire. Get there with a Squire. Get there with an Epiphone. Just strive to get there. And whatever that is, whatever there is. But do it, and be grateful. Because I've told you before, even a parts caster like this at $140 in some countries is unattainable. I could take this to that village that I spent a lot of time in Cambodia and give it to one of the kids there, and it would be something that they would keep and remember. They would keep this guitar for their whole lives. Nobody else would have it around them, and it would be the equivalent of somebody dropping like a 70 Strat or a 60 Strat in your lap and saying, here. So dig that. Keep that in your back of your mind. Be thankful with what you got, regardless of what the economic value of it is. I had a lot of supporters that bought the album. I listed them at the end. Anthony, I did a little typo on you. So if you're listening to this later on, I apologize to you. I'll fix that in the next one. But I listed everybody who bought the album, who supported this channel by going over to Bandcamp and buying the Asanoki Ants in the Pantry album. Join that list, guys. If you haven't bought the album and you want to support this channel directly, ad revenues, forget about it. It's really not there. But if you want to do something that directly supports the channel and I can use that money to buy cool stuff, keep this going, keep the discussions going. That goes back into this channel, by the way. Everything that comes in this channel goes back into the channel. That's the model here. So make that happen. Help keep that going. Buy the album. Go to bandcamp.com. Buy the Asanoki Ants in the Pantry album. And I thank you. I want to thank all you guys for showing up tonight. We were strong tonight. We had ourselves quite a crowd here tonight. I want to thank everybody who hung into the end with me. I hope you liked the topics tonight. I think I gave you a little bit of something to chew on there, I hope. Taking a look at parts casters, thinking that may be an option that you may want to go, a road you might want to go down. I want to thank you guys so much. And I don't know what I'm going to be reviewing this week. I shot 2 videos, and the first one that I shot what was that on? God, I forget what I was talking about, but for some reason the camera wasn't in focus. I was editing, and the camera kept coming in and out of focus. I was out of focus. I said, oh, fuck. So I have to shoot something else for this week. I kind of moved on from that topic. So something else will be coming up. Stay tuned for that. Support that by watching the regular channel topics. Support me all the way around by watching the contents and by showing up every Sunday night. This is Sunday night at Mike's. Signing off, thanking you guys for showing up. You guys have a good one. Have a blessed week. Take care. Bye-bye.